Do you think you've used the Lord's word to profit, like grossly?
Yes.
Do you think you distorted the Lord's word to make money? Whoa, whoa,
Appreciate you coming.
whoa.
Thank
whoa.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I asked you not to do that. In the obedience of God, He is a blessing. You still did that.
So making money isn't a bad thing. But for whom is this money made? In what direction does it go? Welcome to the Father Leo Show, where I'm dishing out faith, culture, and commentary. And in this episode, I'm going to give you my take on the very popular mega church preacher Joel Osteen. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Let me know what your thoughts on his Bible Belt church. And do you think that he's a Christian or just a prosperity gospel preacher so that he can make more money for himself? And please know, when it comes to money, we don't have a lot of it. And all of the money that I make is going to the mission of the Plating Grace Foundation, a registered 501c3. And we have staff, and you know that I hire people coming out of the prison systems or disadvantaged communities, and I just happen to be in the most terrible industry ever, and that's the hospitality industry, particularly with the food truck and the restaurant. So your support, even on Patreon, goes in part to helping them, as well as paying for this staff, so that we can continue to dish out faith, culture, and commentary. So your support is super helpful, and thank you for it. Let's just jump right into it with my hot take on the preacher Joel Osteen. I know the preacher Joel Osteen gets an incredibly divisive or divided reaction. Some people love him, and some people, even other Christians, can't stand him. And I think that's some people who do love him because of his message, and he makes people feel good. And I can honestly say that I've listened to many of his sermons and am profoundly impressed with his ability to communicate, and yes, even to inspire, to make me, again, just feel good. And I wish a lot of preaching can make people feel good in the Catholic Church, because unfortunately there's a lot of preaching in the Catholic Church where people are just left completely uninspired. But at the same time, there are a lot of Christians in particular religious leaders who kind of have it out for him. And I wonder if it's jealousy or if it's because they really are upset with his lack of commitment to theological doctrine. But then again, Protestants don't have a lot of theological doctrines, and so for them to criticize each other, it's almost like a very sad thing of seeing how the Protestant world kind of eats its own. Now, things like that happen in the Catholic Church as well. You have priests who are very divided against each other. I know a lot of people who can't stand me, and even some priests who can't stand me as far as they can throw me. And so there'll be accusations lodged against me, and the number one that I hear is like, oh, all he does is he cooks. Doesn't he work in a church? And so all of those things that are said of me are sometimes, in a sense, reimagined and hurled at Reverend, where is he a Reverend? But preacher Joel Osteen. And so that's what I want to do, is give you my take on it, but put it within a context of something that I saw that made me want to talk about this amazingly talented and effective, but perhaps empty, preacher known as Joel Osteen. Check this out.
Do you think you've used the Lord's word to profit?
That's me confronting mega pastor Joel Osteen at the largest church in America with an estimated $90 million annual budget.
This is huge.
It's a massive auditorium.
After a digital greeting from Joel,
we're so blessed to have you. Always a joy to come into your homes. We just feel blessed and honored.
Sunday service had begun.
Proverbs 18 says, when you give, it can open doors. We want to thank you for your generosity and your donations.
He's almost like a motivational speaker who has co-opted God and Jesus as his mascots to make money. Luckily for me, there was a meet and greet with Joel right after service.
I need a promise.
All right.
You gotta go play.
How you doing?
Good, how about you?
I'm doing good. Could you sign my book?
I'd be glad to.
Joel, I have a question for you. Do you think you've used the Lord's word to profit, Like grossly?
Yes.
Like, do you think he distorted the Lord's word to make money? Whoa, whoa. Appreciate you coming. Whoa. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I asked you not to do that. In the obedience of God, He is a blessing. You still did that.
He is a blessing of God and he can't be challenged. Now, this is where I have to say that some people who follow Joel Osteen are truly part of a cult. And the cult is his personality. And let's admit that cultish personalities doesn't, always lead to terrible things. People follow certain preachers or certain people or certain podcasts. And I get it because they just like them. But it seems to me that some people who do follow Joel Osteen have elevated him to this kind of like this anointed mega preacher, and they'll do everything to protect him. But to be honest with you, if the Lord is for you, who can be against you? Joel Osteen didn't need that woman to protect him. Unless, of course, Joel Osteen asked her to protect him. I don't know. So I can simply say this, that when I watch something like this, that came from a popular YouTuber, Tyler Olivieri, I think is what his name is. He's a popular YouTuber. Oliviera, I think is his name. And he just wanted to go and check it out. And honestly, it kind of looked crazy in there. It just kind of looks like a big show. And I don't know how long the services are, maybe an hour long. I know that he preaches for at least a good 30-40 minutes each time. They probably have a lot of music before the service begins and clearly afterwards. And I know that there are these opportunities for love offerings, basically donations. And with a church that big, if all of them even just gave $10, he's doing quite well. And I know their online campaign is strong, and they also have a lot of books, a lot of kind of downloads that you can get. And he's just a prolific moneymaker. That's just all there is to it. But does that make him bad? Not necessarily. In fact, some priests in certain dioceses are known for raising money, and they're almost seen as the heroes to the bishops. You've helped raise this much money for the capital campaign and for the Lenten appeal. So making money isn't a bad thing. But for whom is this money made? In what direction does it go? Obviously, the upkeep of that mega building. I can't call it a church. It is not a church. So please do not call it a church. It is a mega hall. There is something to be said about the difference between a church and a non-denominational congregation's hall. It's certainly not the same. But I want to just give you my points here. Number one, I'm not one to bash another preacher. Just because, first of all, I don't see Joel Osteen as anyone that I need to bash. He also doesn't seem to be anti-Catholic. I've never heard him talk about Catholicism in a real negative way. He just focuses on the Word of God and the way he interprets it with these very kind of well-crafted messages. Not necessarily homilies, but they're more of like motivational speeches. But this young man, Tyler, was getting into it with him theologically. And so while I appreciate Tyler kind of going undercover, I don't know if that's a Christian thing to do, and that's to kind of attack a man while he's signing books. And why do I know that? Because I've signed books after I've given talks. And I had one man come up to me. Now, he was completely brainwashed by a liberal news media, and he just basically wanted me to condemn a certain EWTN commentator because this person is sometimes affiliated with someone who is, okay, I'm just going to say it because it's not even a big deal. It's basically the world over with Raymond Arroyo. He sometimes covers for Laura Ingraham. And this man who attacked me during a book signing hates Laura Ingraham because she seems to be a Trump supporter as a broadcaster on Fox. And this man clearly hates Fox, hates Laura Ingraham, and therefore hates Raymond Arroyo for subbing for her on occasion, and therefore, by the transitive property, hated me. And I've never even met the man, but he just started yelling at me while I was at a book signing. So I know what it's like, and I don't think it's appropriate. I just don't. So I think what Tyler did wasn't very Christian, but what he revealed about Joel Osteen showed that there's some not necessarily Christian things in Joel Osteen's church as well. But does that mean Joel Osteen is the devil or doing the devil's work? I don't think so. But is he doing the full work of the gospel? I definitely would not agree to that. But is he doing the Lord's work? To a degree, he kind of is, because he's doing something called a kerygma. He's just basically trying to share the good news, trying to make people feel good about professing an understanding of the sacred scriptures, Jesus's words, trying to get to know Jesus at least in some way or another. But the question is, does he distort it? I think it gets distorted because of the focus on money. And I think that's what this young man, Tyler, was trying to reveal, is that there's a real focus on money when it comes to Joel Osteen. But here's the thing, again, money making isn't a problem. But when you apply it to Matthew 6:24, you cannot serve both God and mammon. I have to wonder, in general, where does this money go? The upkeep of the building, paying the staff, the band. He does seem to have a very elite lifestyle, private jets, I'm sure. He has no need for money. But how much charity he does, I don't care enough to do the research, so I can't tell you that. But I can simply say there is a real focus on money. And that really comes from this prosperity gospel approach, that those who believe in the gospel will be richly rewarded. That's why he even starts off a lot of his conferences by saying, if you give, God opens up doors for you. To me, it sounds a lot like selling of indulgences. If you give us this money, we'll pray for you and you'll have doors opened. I've seen a lot of prosperity gospel preachers, and honestly, they make me sick to my stomach. Joel is slicker, because it comes out not in the most obvious way. There's like this prosperity gospel preacher who's just disgusting. Honestly, he says, I know that there are at least 20 people who have $1,000 that they need to give to Jesus right now into this ministry. That's just disgusting. Joel is a little bit more nuanced, which might make it worse, to be honest with you, because, he's slick. But at the same time, he doesn't say you have to give it. So if you go to Joel Osteen's church and you don't give a dime, but you like his preaching, have at it. But it's still not church in the historical, biblical, theological, and traditional sense. Not at all. You're listening to a motivational speaker who is incredibly talented and who uses Christian sentiment to make people feel good about themselves, give them hope in a situation that is challenging, and also is obviously good enough to get you, the listener, to react, either by following Joel more intensely or by giving money. And so, there are some things that I appreciate, that he doesn't throw direct shade and hate against the Catholic Church. I've not come across him saying anything very specifically against the Pope, against Catholics in general. Although there's a lot of people in his congregation who are former Catholics, and they seem to throw more shade and hate on the Catholic Church than Joel does as well. But I think there is an important distinction here, and that is, when you go to his church, do you feel like you've been to a party, or do you feel like you've been through a workout? With intense soul-stirring exercise. Are you being challenged to lift the heavy weight and not just simply give it up to God and give God the glory and just trust and believe? Is there actually theology that is, and by the way, those messages are good, but it comes with practice. It comes with, relax Protestants, but it comes with works. You actually have to do things to prove you have trust and faith in God. And that's really perhaps my biggest challenge of all. this is not worship. This is a motivational speech. And there was a Greek Orthodox preacher, I believe, and this is what he has to say, and it's impressive.
Your church either has an altar or it has a stage. A stage, we know what is that. It's performance. Mm-hmm. It's what makes me feel good. There could be beautiful music playing, beautiful worship songs, right? But at the end of the day, that's a stage. Every apostolic tradition has an altar. And in our tradition, we're all facing one direction. We're facing Christ. So we are worshiping. And every early church, every Christian tradition that predates 1500, all believed the Eucharist is the true body and blood of Christ. This was the center of our worship. St. Paul actually says in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, he said, you guys are meeting for the wrong reasons. Some of you are coming drunk. Some of you are coming hungry. Some of you are coming full. You are not coming to partake of the Lord's Supper. This is what worship is. The whole point of worship was to partake of the Lord's Supper. Everything else was secondary. In Acts chapter 2, it says there was 4 things that they kept steadfastly. The apostles' doctrine, in fellowship, in the breaking of bread, which is communion, and in prayers. Constantly. In Acts 20 verse 7, it said, on the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread. Breaking bread is not breakfast. To have communion. And this is how we know Christ.
So that is an Eastern Rite priest. I don't know exactly what his name is, but what he had to say certainly reflects the Catholic tradition as well as the Greek Orthodox tradition. And the way the Greek Orthodox and the Catholics preach is very different from Joel Osteen. And why? Because we're actually participating in a liturgy which is very different from the performance. And it is a performance on a stage that Joel Osteen and his community of believers do. Does that make them bad people? No, but it certainly doesn't lead to a fullness of truth and the prosperity of gospel approach, as well as this kind of unhealthy obsession with money, as well as the excessive amount of wealth that is attributed to him, particularly with ministries that, again, I'm not 100% familiar with. It's hard to figure him out because, again, from the surface, he does do a service to the Christian church. Namely, he makes people feel good about the good news. But it doesn't go far enough. And if Joel keeps his people only at the surface level, then he is, in a sense, doing a disservice, because he's basically, take it through the analogy of just wading in the water. That's not Christianity. Christianity isn't wading in a foot of water. It's being able to swim in the deep. And if he doesn't give people the tools to swim in the deep, then he's leading them to be drowned. And that is not of God. Not saying it's of the devil, but it's certainly not of God. It seems to be more of coming from him and his, ready for this, brand of prosperity Christian gospel messaging. But I ultimately can't judge his heart. But you can look at the fruits, and that's where I struggle. I'm wondering what exactly are the fruits of his ministry. I haven't seen anything except for people wanting to give him more protection and he receiving more money. So again, I don't agree with this young man's approach, but I'm glad that he was able to kind of uncover some of the things that happened in Joel Osteen's church. It doesn't surprise me, and it certainly doesn't impress me. And in fact, makes me want to pray for all of the people who go to his congregation, that they'll be able to go deeper into his faith. Because the deeper you are as a Protestant, going deeper into your faith as a Protestant, then there's a greater chance that you will become Catholic. And there is a really important phrase that all of us need to remember. Strong Protestants become Catholics. Weak Catholics become Protestants. Let us know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. And please consider supporting us at any level on patreon.com/The Father Leo Show, so that me and my team, as well as all the other people in my organization, again, It's a small organization, but we have a great impact, especially in the food world. We depend on it, but it also gives you an opportunity to get access to some great content as well as some special perks. So thank you for your support. And in the meantime, God bless you and stay hungry for the truth of God.